Imagine a world where the dollar's dominance is eroding, not by war or political upheaval, but by a silent, invisible force. What if the future of global trade isn't in Western banks, but in an alliance of emerging economies, building a revolutionary blockchain system? This isn't science fiction. It's the BRICS nations laying the groundwork for a financial revolution. And today, we're diving deep into this unseen force that's poised to reshape our world. For decades, the global financial system has run on rails built and controlled by the West, with the US dollar as the undisputed king. Every international transaction, from buying oil to selling electronics, has largely depended on this system. But what happens when some of the world's biggest and fastest growing economies decide to build their own highway? That's exactly what Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the BRICS bloc, are doing. And their construction material of choice is blockchain technology. So, why the big move? It boils down to a few key factors: de-dollarization, efficiency, and sovereignty. The reliance on the dollar gives the United States immense geopolitical leverage. Through sanctions and control over systems like SWIFT, the US can effectively cut entire nations off from the global economy. For countries in the BRICS alliance, this is a vulnerability they are no longer willing to tolerate. They see it as a single point of failure and a tool of economic coercion. Their goal is to create an alternative, a parallel system that isn't subject to the political whims of any single nation. Enter blockchain. When most people hear blockchain, they think of cryptocurrencies, but its potential goes far, far beyond that. At its core, blockchain is a distributed, immutable ledger. Think of it as a digital record book that's shared among many participants. Once a transaction is recorded, it cannot be altered or deleted. This creates an unprecedented level of transparency and security. The BRICS nations are developing what they call the BRICS Bridge, or a similar blockchain-based payment system. This isn't about creating a single new currency to replace the dollar overnight. Instead, it's about building a platform where member countries can trade directly with each other using their own local currencies. Imagine a Brazilian company buying goods from a Chinese supplier. Instead of converting their currency to dollars and then to yuan, with all the associated fees and delays, they could transact directly. The blockchain would act as a secure and instant settlement layer, validating and recording the transaction without needing a traditional intermediary bank. This brings us to the incredible benefits. First, speed and cost. International wire transfers can take days to clear and involve hefty fees from multiple correspondent banks. A blockchain-based system could settle transactions in minutes, or even seconds, for a fraction of the cost. This is a game-changer for businesses, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, making international trade more accessible and profitable. It slashes the red tape and friction that currently bogs down global commerce. Second, transparency and security. Because every transaction is recorded on a shared, encrypted ledger, it's incredibly difficult to tamper with. This reduces the risk of fraud and creates a more trustworthy environment for trade. It also simplifies auditing and compliance, as all parties have access to the same verifiable data. Think about the paperwork involved in a single shipment: bills of lading, letters of credit, customs declarations. Smart contracts, which are self-executing contracts with the terms of the agreement directly written into code, could automate this entire process on the blockchain. The moment a shipment arrives and is verified, payment could be released automatically. This isn't just an improvement, it's a complete reinvention of supply chain finance. But the biggest implication, the one that has the West watching very closely, is the challenge to the existing financial order. If the BRICS bloc, which represents over 40% of the world's population and a significant chunk of global GDP, successfully moves a substantial portion of its trade off the dollar-based system, the consequences will be enormous. Demand for the US dollar would decrease, potentially weakening its value and diminishing America's ability to finance its debts so easily. It would mark a definitive shift toward a more multipolar financial world, where economic power is more distributed. This isn't a distant, futuristic concept. The groundwork is being laid right now. Russia and China have already been conducting a growing volume of their trade in their own currencies. The central banks of these nations are actively exploring digital currencies and cross-border payment systems. The BRICS Bridge is the logical next step, unifying these individual efforts into a cohesive, powerful network. Now, it's important to be realistic. This won't happen overnight. Building such a system is technologically complex and requires immense political coordination. There are challenges to overcome, like standardizing regulations across different countries and ensuring the scalability and security of the platform. Furthermore, The dollar's dominance is deeply entrenched. Decades of trust, liquidity, and network effects are not easily displaced. The world's financial markets are built around the dollar, and untangling that web is a monumental task. However, the direction of travel is clear. The BRICS nations are united in their desire for greater financial autonomy. They see blockchain not just as a technology, but as a strategic tool to rebalance global power. This isn't just about payments. It's about creating a new ecosystem for trade, finance, and investment that operates on their terms. So, what does this mean for you? If you're an investor, it means you need to start thinking beyond traditional markets. The rise of this new financial architecture will create new opportunities in emerging economies and in the technologies that power this shift. The value of currencies could see significant fluctuations. If you work in finance, logistics, or international trade, the skills you need will change. Understanding blockchain, smart contracts, and digital currencies will become essential. This is a story of disruption, ambition, and the relentless march of technology. The silent, invisible force of the BRICS blockchain initiative is no longer silent. It's a growing hum that is getting louder every day, signaling the dawn of a new era in global finance. The tectonic plates of economic power are shifting beneath our feet. And whether we see it as a threat or an opportunity, one thing is certain: the world will never be the same. We'll be keeping a close eye on these developments and bringing you the latest updates as this story unfolds. What are your thoughts on this financial revolution? Do you think the BRICS alliance can pull it off? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. See you next time.